There are some Pokemon out there that are pretty lame, but one of the coolest things is when a lame Pokemon gets a cool evolution and just totally redeems the perception of that Pokemon. I explored this concept a little while ago in a previous video, and today we are going to continue to do so by giving some more lame Pokemon some insanely cool evolutions. The first Pokemon we're going to be looking at here is Scovillain. Now, I realize there will be a bit of an opinion factor to this, but personally, I feel like Scovillain is kind of lame. To me, it felt way too on the nose for what a grass fire type could have potentially been, and after all that time spent waiting for one, for it to be what we spent all that time waiting for, it was a bit of a disappointment in my opinion. So I wanted to give it an evolution that could really add some oomph to its concept and make it a lot cooler, and Fearow is what I ended up creating, with the help of my guy Rgreywind who drew the artwork, and as always you can check him out with the links in the description. Like I said, I personally wasn't a fan of how Scovillain was executed as a design, but there is one thing about it that I do like a lot, and that is its Wild West outlaw motif. You can see it in its artwork, where it's kind of stepping into that iconic stance that you see Wild West cowboys do before they get into the classic shootouts that they're known for. There is also a decent amount of focus on the Wild West theme in other places of Scarlet and Violet as well, where this Pokemon obviously comes from, like with the Bramblin line for instance, and the entire western province of the Paldea region. So it's definitely a cool part about this Pokemon, and I wanted to use that to give it a cool evolution. Upon evolving, Fearow gains a third head, which is a yellow color, which is another common pepper color, just like the red and green that it already has. However, this third yellow head also doubles as the iconic sheriff badge that Wild West sheriffs are always classically depicted with. Additionally, the addition of a third head also brings to mind the Hydra, which is an iconic multi-headed creature that is often depicted as villainous as well. And then it also pulls direct inspiration from Ghidorah, who is the arch enemy of Godzilla. It just so happens to be the case that there's even a Godzilla Pokemon in Paldea as well, in Baxcalibur, so this evolution would have fit absolutely perfectly in this region, because it would have added to Baxcalibur's Godzilla inspiration, because you could have had it having a rivalry with Baxcalibur, and then it would have also contributed to the Wild West motif of Scovillain, as well as this Pokemon, by giving it someone that it could have a Wild West standoff with. I personally can't speak for everyone, but this is something that for me would take Scovillain from kind of just a meh Pokemon to a really cool one. And in future generations, I think that it would be a great Pokemon to revisit with an evolution. This video is being brought to you today thanks to today's sponsor, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. These boxes bring you amazing treats and snacks that come directly from Japan, and they deliver them right to your door every month. From fun modern snacks such as Japanese exclusive Kit Kats to more traditional stuff like authentic Japanese tea, these boxes are a great way to get a genuine Japanese experience without even leaving your living room. They also come in fun themes every month, like Japan Snackfari for Tokyo Treat and Savoring Osaka for Sakura Co. Speaking of which, Sakura Co is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that specializes in a more traditional and cultural Japanese experience, and their boxes even come with an authentic piece of Japanese tableware. This month we have this authentic tenugui, which is kind of like a decorative cloth or hand towel. It does not stop there, however, because by using the link in the description and code HOOPS at checkout, you can get $5 off your first box, with every order also directly supporting the channel, so it helps to keep videos like this one happening. These also make great gifts as well, so be sure to check that out with the link below, and thanks so much to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. for supporting the channel. Next, we have a Pokemon that is so often just left in the shadows, and that is Fearow. Fearow is always getting the short end of the stick compared to what is basically its counterpart in Pidgeot. For example, it didn't get the third stage evolution like Pidgeot did, it didn't get the Mega Evolution like Pidgeot did, it's just been left to rot basically, and has never gotten the chance to stand out and get some love of its own. So a cool evolution would be just the kind of thing that this Pokemon needs. Sneero is what I have come up with that in mind, and I think it would do a lot for Fearow to get an evolution along these lines. It is a dark flying type, so it gains a type upon evolving, which is pretty cool, and in contrast to the colorful elegance of Pidgeot, Sneero has a messier, more unkempt look. That comes from the vulture inspiration that Fearow is also likely inspired by as well, and that inspiration is built upon in this evolution to give this Pokemon an outcast kind of vibe. It now has a giant mohawk, which brings to mind the look of your stereotypical punk or troublemaker type, and the fur around its neck is also large and spiky, which is meant to mimic the dog collars that your stereotypical hoodlum is also seen to be wearing a lot of the time. The name Sneero is also reflective of this too, and I thought that since Spearow and Fearow kind of have a shared theme with their names, that the name of this evolution should also follow suit. Therefore, Sneero came to be because it matches up with that theme, while also incorporating the word sneer, which is a sort of contemptuous and antagonistic facial expression that matches with the dark typing of this Pokemon. Fearow is definitely due for some special treatment in some way, shape, or form, and I think an awesome evolution would do a lot to help make this Pokemon relevant again. We are now going to shift gears though, and look at another Pokemon that is a poster child for lame Pokemon everywhere, and that is Sunflora. I'm sure it has its fans, but Sunflora has definitely got to be one of the lamest Pokemon in existence, and so it could definitely be bolstered up a little bit with a cool evolution. Sunferno is my answer to this, and it's kind of funny because despite being a pretty lame Pokemon, Sunflora actually has such a glaringly obvious way that it could receive a major glow up, and that is by giving it the Grass Fire type. It is a sunflower after all, so it's a perfect fit, and the Grass Fire typing is a really cool type combination that until just recently was also completely unused. So it would be the perfect thing to give this Pokemon with an evolution, while also being a perfect and seamless addition to its design. Therefore, this is what I have done with Sunferno, and its design more specifically makes reference to giant sunflowers, because while you can have sunflowers of a more normal size, which you would see with Sunflora, they can also get insanely big too, so that is another thing that makes sense for this Pokemon in an evolution. I also haven't really been focusing too much on the stats or abilities of these designs, but one thing that I do think would be really cool to do for Sunferno is to give it a new ability that coincides with its unique Grass Fire typing. I'd call it Pyro Petals or something to that effect, and it would give any grass-type moves that Sunferno uses a 15 or 20% chance to burn the opponent. I think that would be really cool and just add to the cool factor of this Pokemon even more, and would help to redeem Sunflora all the more too. Lastly, the name Sunflora comes from the names of Sunkern and Sunflora combined with Inferno due to the fire typing. However, it also incorporates the word fern in there as well, in order to maintain the plant grass type theming. And overall, I just feel like it works really well, and it would genuinely be amazing to see Sunflora get something like this in the future. Like Sunflora, this next Pokemon is also a grass type that is often seen as lame or forgettable, and that would be Maractus. This Pokemon is in desperate need of something being done to it, simply just to remind everyone that it exists. So I went ahead and gave it an evolution of my own in the form of Cacticolt. Now, I will admit that this evolution is pretty random, but weirdly, it also kinda fits at the same time, because it is inspired by a witch. Maractus is a music-inspired Pokemon, as its name would suggest, so it doesn't remotely relate to witchcraft or anything like that, but I noticed that it actually does have a lot of traits that do actually match up really well with the idea of a witch, such as it being a more feminine Pokemon, being green, having a jagged smile, and all of its spikes reminded me a lot of the pointy hats and the big nose and chin that witches are often seen with. So, it doesn't exactly relate to Maractus in terms of what it does as a Pokemon, but it also kinda matches up at the same time, and I thought something different like this could inject a sort of wow factor into Maractus that it could definitely use. It also gains the Dark type as a part of this to become Grass Dark, so that's pretty cool as far as giving it some love goes, and then the name Cacticolt is something that I did ultimately settle on, but I would also love to hear in the comments what you would name this evolution to, because I honestly had a tough time coming up with a name for this one. Cacticolt comes from cactus and occult, which refers to the whole witch theme, but again, I also do feel like there's probably a better name out there, so I would love to hear any ideas you guys might have. I have saved what I believe to be the best for last, though, because our next Pokemon is Seaking. Like Sunflora or Maractus, Seaking is another one of those more classic, lame Pokemon that most people just seem to kinda agree isn't the best. So I knew that I wanted to give it an out-of-this-world evolution to really try and redeem it, and I feel like we absolutely nailed it with Vesalord. At first, I honestly wasn't too sure what I could do with a Seaking evolution, but I knew that at the very least, I wanted to give it a new type of some kind. And when I am trying to make cool Pokemon designs, I tend to gravitate towards the Ghost type. So I did go ahead and think about what a Ghost type Seaking evolution could be like, and if that could even work. And when I thought about that, and I thought about Seaking's king motif that's obviously prominent in its name, that brought to mind the idea of a ship captain and ghost ships. And I thought that that sounded pretty cool, so I went ahead and looked into how I could possibly pull that off. And I ended up making the Pokemon itself into a ghost ship. For instance, my first idea was to make Seaking's horn into that long part of the front of ships that extends off the edge of the deck, which I later found out was called a bowsprit, so fun fact for you there. And then from there, the design really started to come together, with its fins being made to mimic the sails of a ship, and it even having some fins that mimic the long beard of an old pirate captain. The name Vesalord really works well in the cool department too, and while it does sound quite different from Goldeen and Seaking, it also connects to them as well, as it first comes from Vessel, and Soul, referring to the ghost type and ship theme, and then it also comes from Lord, which relates back to the king in Seaking's name, and potentially even Goldine's name too, as it is thought that Goldine possibly derives from queen, just like Seaking derives from king. Overall, this is a Pokemon that I would 100% put on my team, and I have never even considered that with Goldine or Seaking before. And that is what I think is so cool about these kinds of evolutions. You will have to let me know which one is your favorite though in the comments, and be sure to leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. I will see you all soon with another one, and until then, as always, thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.